Cool. Yep. So right around, I was originally slotted for a logistics officer job, which was perfectly fine for me. I wanted to lead to become an officer. My commander was like, hey, why don't you put in a rated package? I was like, I don't know what that is. He's like, you take the AFOQT and the TBAS, and I did that. Failed the AFOQT my first time, so I recommend studying if you can the first time. Obviously, you get a couple attempts, but I took it the second time, did better. Got a CISO slot, and I didn't know what a CISO was, either did he. He was like, you get to go to Pensacola for a year. So I got to choose which path I wanted. I went the CISO route. Pensacola was pretty motivating at the time. So I went to Florida for a year, and from 14 to 15, the middle of 15. Combat Systems Operator, it's where all the NAVs, EWOs, and all that go for training in the Air Force. Went down there, had a blast, loved it, really loved Florida, it was really fun. And then there you do a drop night, just like what pilots do. You put in a dream sheet, depending on how good you do in your class and your rankings. I got a B1, had no idea what it was at the time. We Googled it right after. It wasn't at the career day in Pensacola when I was there, so I was looking to go that 15 route. Just because it was, it's very class A guy, and so I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I didn't know anything about the B1, so it was really low on my radar. My flight commander actually got it for me because he knew it was the next best option after F-15s. And so when I dropped it, I was pretty excited. I saw some videos, found out it was in Texas. My wife and I are pretty excited to move to Texas, and so excited. We've been here for now almost 11 years. Which we can't complain about. We love it. We've been very blessed to move around the base with my job and career for my kids to grow up in one area. Mm-hmm. And so 16 to now, I've been in an ops squadron in the 9th for 3 years, 2 deployments there, 1 combat, 1 to Guam. Went to an OSS, was a flight commander, ADO. Did another deployment to a TET cell in an AOC. Now I'm back in the ops squadron as an ADO, doing more leadership, supervising just the big career stuff, but still flying quite a bit. Did a BTF to Japan a couple months ago, so that was a pretty cool experience. Got another deployment coming up here next week. And then, I got about a few more years to hang out here until I retire. So a quick synopsis on my career.
Y'all want to ask any questions? I mean, like, the first one we got, like, what did... Like, go back to the beginning, in Pensacola, what was, like, CISO training like?
Yeah, so you guys probably haven't experienced yet. It's similar to college, right? You're in a technical training course. Let's see, you guys have went to field training, so you're juniors. You guys experienced a little bit of the military there, but when you go to CISO school as an officer, you're held to a higher standard than like maybe the enlisted when they go to a tech school. So enlisted, they go to tech school to learn their jobs. They're very much constrained to like how they run their life, where they can go, what they can do, when to show up. Now, as an officer in CISO school, and it could be the same in other tech schools, you have a lot more freedom, but you're still held to the same standard as far as showing up to a certain time of class. You're a student, right? So I was a student for 9 months, learning how to be a combat system operator in all the platforms generically, right? So how to do radar stuff, how to do nav stuff, how to do EWO stuff, how to do WISO stuff. That's what CISO school is. You start off in an academic phase where you just learn everything. There's tests throughout the whole thing. You have usually daily PT, daily classroom stuff, daily check-ins, and then you go through different phases of CISO training, which I think now they shred out to if you want to be like an EWO or a WISO to different platforms you're going to go to. You do a couple flights in the T-38 and the T-6 and the T-1, but I think now it's just the T-38 and T-1. It could be narrowing down. But you do some flights in a jet to learn how to navigate, do point-to-point navigation and talk-ons and stuff like that. But it's very much just a classroom setting. You work hard, you get graded, you're graded through everything, and that's the culmination of your drop night, right? So your drop night is when you get your aircraft based off your dream sheet and how good you did in your class. You have peer rankings, just like in ROTC. You have not cadet rankings, but you have a class ranking, and then you're graded throughout the whole thing. So it's really just more school. But it's a big picture of where you're going to go for your aircraft, just like UPT is for pilots, right? Pilots go to UPT, they get their drop night, they go to the airframe, and then for me, dropping the B1, went to DIAS, the 28th is the MQT there, or the FTU. So that's where I did more training, but specifically on the B1 for another year. So for about 6 months, we're in a classroom learning everything about the B1, you know, the radars, the weapons, the fuel systems, pilots and WISOs. You're in the same class, so it's pretty cool. That's your first time interacting with other people outside of CISOs. So you're learning about the B1 with your class. Then you go to the flight line and you fly the B1, right? So I'm in the back doing the WISO stuff, pilots up front learn how to fly. And you do that for another 6 months. You have check rides, you have testings you're still doing, you're getting graded on everything. That's a little bit more rigorous training than CISO school because, you know, that's your aircraft. That's what they're paying you to go do, so you have to know it all. So it's a lot of studying. And I was never a big studier in college. I had a kinesiology degree, so I always laughed at the ROTC cadets that had civil engineer degrees because they were studying like crazy, man, and they were always in the debt. I would just like show up for ROTC class and be like, deuces, bye. I'm going to go work this job and not do homework. So for me, the studying was tough. I didn't do too well on some of the academic tests. I had to do like extra studying and extra tests, but I just knew not to quit really. And I learned a lot during that time on how to study properly and find those fine-tuned skills. But so that was a challenge for me, was more the academic stuff. Being in the jet is always really fun. I'm more of a button pusher guy than like reading and memorizing stuff. So that's why flying in the B1 and going through that training was cool. Mm-hmm. So then after that, in 2016, you go to your squadron, your ops squadron. You do more training. Your mission qualified training called MQT, which is like another 6 months. But now you're learning how to be a combat aviator. Since you know the basics of the jet from the FTU, you go to your ops squadron and you're learning how to be an aviator there. So they're teaching you more tactically what the B1 does. How does it deploy in certain scenarios? How do we drop bombs? How do we fight this war? How do we do all, it's a lot more complicated, but tactically. And that's another 6 months. After that is when, sort of the end, you become a CMR person, combat mission ready, and you also get your call sign, and that's like when you're blessed and welcomed into the brotherhood of the aviators. There's still upgrades from there, you know, instructor, mission lead, but that's like the big one on top of that. And then from there, you're just an aviator trying to learn the jet. And then if you haven't learned much about career progression in the military, your detachment leadership has probably taught you there some, you know, you captains, you're learning more leadership and management stuff. Then you work up to majors where you're doing more supervisor and manager. You're not flying as much, but you're working up that career progression from there.
Mm-hmm. Was or is, can you go to weapons school as a CISO?
Yeah, so great question. Along the lines of other progressions in the flying community, there's weapons school instructors, and yeah, we can go through it as WISOs. It's another, usually you'll do that right around when you're captain, maybe experienced captain, so 4 or 5 years in, when you've been tactically like really, really good at the jet. Usually you can either just volunteer for it, or if your leadership sees that you have some aspirations to go that path, you can put in a package and go become a weapons school instructor. It's another 6 months of getting your butt kicked in because you're basically the best tactically in your platform. So you're valued very highly in a squadron. You do a lot. They're used a lot. They're very valuable people. But that's like another path of leadership as well. I didn't go down that road. I wanted to lead more, so I decided to go to an OSS, be a flight commander for an AFE shop, so aircrew flight equipment, and that's where I really fell in love with leadership because it tested me outside of just flying the B1. So I went down more the leadership officer side, took a break from flying a little bit, worked on myself, and then came back last year back into the jet.
Right now, when you're not a CISO, what are you doing?
Great question. So most people may think flyers, we just like fly all the time. That's not true. We only are required to fly 3 flights a month and 1 sim as like an experienced person. So what that means is, let's say 30 days in a month, 4 weeks, 5 days in a week, that's 20 days right there, right? 20 work days. On top of that, we have my 3 flights, so that's 2 days each because we have to mission plan a full day for 8 hours, and then a flight is probably an 8-hour day. It takes 2 hours to start the jet, a 4-hour sortie, an hour to shut down, and then a 2-hour debrief. So let's just say that's 3 flights, that's 6 days, minus those from what I say 20, that's now 14 days left to work. Now that's like officer stuff. So you guys are learning how a squadron is sort of ran, right? There's a safety flight, there's like a scheduling shop, there's a training shop, there's an evaluation shop, there's your flight commanders, there's the execs. That's all going on outside of flying. So when I was a flight commander and scheduling, I was managing the schedule for all the flyers, and that you're doing that all day. Same as the training shop. You're making sure everybody that's going through training at the time is getting the right training. And that's like our officer job. It's just, we're like a mini squadron within an ops squadron when it comes to duties. So that's what we do outside of that. And the role I'm in now is an ADO, Assistant Director of Operations. It's more supervisor, so I've become very good at emails, meetings, and filling the boss in on what's going on and making sure the squadron is ran when they're gone. So, but that's what I love. I know that's my role, and some flyers don't like it because they're not flying, but I do appreciate, a well-functioning flight and squadron. I'm pretty picky about emails now after learning how to do them properly, and it can save a lot of time. And so that's just part of the Air Force. Like, you'll see, you guys probably see it right now, in a communication age of emails, like proper etiquette in emails is huge. And so I manage a lot of just what the squadron's doing overall. But it's a cool leadership jump for me outside of I get to learn the big picture of what's going on base, right? I get to go to my commander and DO meetings if they can't and sit in those seats and see what the big picture of what's going on in the squadron. Instead of so funnel vision on flying the B-1, I see like what else is going on base at the group in the wing. So to answer your question, outside of flying, we do have daily operation jobs we're doing. Most of them take up, a normal 8 to 4 day with lunch, maybe PT if you wanted to. So it's not too crazy, but we know when we fly, it's very busy. It takes up a lot of time. So we sort of take that time back to ourselves when we need it.
Awesome.
I got a question on that note. My name's Cadet Knotts. So I was wondering, is there like a rank or maybe like a point in your career where you kind of move away from the flying more to maybe the administrative or like paperwork side of things?
Yeah, so when I went to the OSS as a captain, I definitely stepped away from flying because I was outside of an ops squadron. I was in an OSS, Operations Support Squadron, leading there. So I didn't fly a lot. So I took a step away. That's where one opportunity you can do. That was earlier in my career. Most people will take that opportunity late captain. So you'll be in an ops squadron usually from lieutenant till about early captain. So 4 years almost. You're just there hacking the mish, right? Learning to be the best in the jet, flying, deploying, whatever. And then you have that opportunity to go spread your wings, right? Go be a leader and do the administration stuff. Now, majors and above don't usually fly as much either because, like I said, we're filling in for the commander and DO who are super busy with meetings, so they don't even fly as much as us. They usually just fly the bare minimums to meet their training just to stay current because it's just crazy how many meetings they have to go to. But yeah, so usually around late captain, so I'll say 6 years in, you're making that transition to maybe either going to weapons school right in that platform to fly more tactically, or go to a school, or do more of the administration jobs like that.
You want to do anything?
Yeah, I have a question. Hey, I'm Cadet Kick. My question to you would be, is it generally pretty easy to transfer from being a CISO to a pilot, or is it pretty hard because of your, all the qualifications you have?
Yeah, so we don't see a lot of cross-training on really on the officer side overall. You don't see a lot of cross-training jobs because as an aviator, you have a cap or a code. So as a pilot, you have a 10-year commitment, and a WISO or a CISO, you have a 6-year commitment you have to do in that platform. After that, you can do other things. The easiest path is going from a CISO to a pilot. So I see a lot of CISOs and WISOs go become pilots, especially in platforms that are sort of fading away, right? Like I think it was the AWACS and RCs, they're losing some of their NAVs and CISOs, so they're allowing them to go to UPT. The B1's sort of the same thing, right? We're phasing out here in the next 10 years, and so they're allowing WISOs to stay in and fly. And all we have to do is put in a UPT package. It's pretty easy. And most of the time we get accepted because we already have flying experience. Now, do they come back to the B1? Most of them don't because that's a little bit harder to manage what platform you come back to. But a lot of CISOs do end up going to UPT because they either wanted to become a pilot but didn't get it earlier, or they just want to continue their career and try something else. So, but yeah, good question.
Thank you, sir. On top of that, is that something you would want to do, or are you pretty content with where you are?
Yeah, so I never had the aspiration to fly, and plus being prior enlisted, I didn't want to go to another tech school again and being a new person again. Like, man, it's a lot to like cross-train jobs and be a new person. And I was like, I'm just getting comfortable to be one. So I tried to cross-train to TAC PO. That's what I tried out to do 2 years ago. And that was a pretty big hurdle on its own with the physical standards, and made it all the way through selection. Just didn't get selected based off of the requirements for how much time I left in the military. But that was like another option I did. I wanted to get back to that world. But yeah, I have no aspiration to fly, so I'm perfectly fine being a Wizzo right now. The B1 will still be around until I retire, so not too worried.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Cadet Dixon. So you already touched on the training portions of it, but I was more curious about like the time frame of each like schoolhouse. So you said like the initial school there in Pensacola, and you said the like certain specific airframe school. So I was wondering like how long those last individually.
Yeah, I don't know what other platforms are. I assume they're similar. So CISO school is like 6 to 9 months, depending on when you start and like when you get out. Because you could probably get there right after graduating, start the next class, continue through, and then, graduate and move on. My FTU was about a year, and then that got me into an ops squadron. So it's usually about 2 years, give or take most platforms, from UPT or CISO to their tech school or FTU to an ops squadron. It's about 2 years. So most of the new pups we get, like the new people from FTU, are captains, late lieutenants. So that's about 2-3 years in, maybe 4. I think we have one of the longer tech schools. I don't know if the other ones have, just because we do so much as Wizzos with the B1. Some platforms probably have a little bit shorter, but they're all about the same. UPT is a little bit longer. I would probably say it's about a year, maybe some change depending on when you start, if you're casual, and then that one's a little bit longer.
Oh, nice. Hey, Snare, Dave Giannotti. These guys, AS instructor here. I am an LRO by trade.
Nice.
Why did you want to be an LRO?
So originally as a SEER guy, that was like the only officer I ever had an interaction with, because when we just get all our gear at Fairchild, like they were the one there. And so I didn't know when I was a SEER guy, like officer jobs, like I didn't know any of that. So I was like, well, when I went through ROTC, that was like the one job I had in my mind. I was like, oh, I remember logistics guys, and they had an officer over there. And then I wanted to just lead as well. And so that was one reason why I wanted to commission, was to be lead as an officer, and doing jobs like that, like LRO, maintenance, and all those where they're working with like hundreds of airmen, like right away. That was an opportunity I wanted to look at. So that's what drove me down that road.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to explain to these guys. Everybody wants to be a pilot when they come in. That's great. I love that for them. I did too. Like I wanted to do the same thing, but we all wear the same uniform, but the leadership opportunities, like you were talking about earlier, like they come a little bit later for the rated side. Like you're a technician first. You're the subject matter expert. Whereas a lot of other career fields, and that's what I'm trying to explain to them, like the aspects. Like day one, a lot of the operators or rated people go in and you're doing more school. Like it's more school. You're becoming a technical expert. Whereas like day one for maintenance, LRO, like you were just talking about, like in my first shop, I had 45 people. It was a lot. I mean, very, very similar issues, like learning curves there, but it's different.
Yeah, and that's one thing. It's interesting when you look at the big picture of the military, where we see a lot of aviators like leading, right, the military jobs, which is funny because they don't have the opportunity to lead that early in their career. There's always like the non-ready jobs that have more leadership and those experience. So there's always that fine line of what path to take. I love being a flight commander. That's why I took that step away from the B1 to go and lead as much as I could. But yeah, I have plenty of friends that are maintenance officers, FSS officers, and I just love learning from them, because they'll just be like, oh, this happened today, or this happened today, or I just show up and like 40 airmen are doing this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, because in those jobs, like you probably see, like DOs are majors or commanders are majors, and so those opportunities to lead are available everywhere. You just have to know what you're getting into, and Yeah, I can't imagine if I was to be in a non-rated job, showing up to a shop of 50 to 100 airmen as a second lieutenant, like I'd be scared out of my mind. I was scared going to an AFV shop as a captain. Luckily, I had a great superintendent, and I just looked at them and I was like, "What do I do? How do I do this?" And they go, "Don't worry, just watch." But yeah.
That's a good coach.
You want to ask one?
You got it. I'll ask after you.
I'll ask the nerdy question. What is it like flying in the B1? You know, like doing a show of force at 500 feet off the ground and going like 0.8. Well, what's that
Yeah,
like?
the B1's pretty cool, man. We get to do some fun stuff. I can't complain. I get to sit in the back with some cool screens, and it's like a 2000s version of Google Map that we have back there now. So we got like a movie map feature. We have like a little mouse cursor. We can drop bombs and build targets and fly to places. And the sniper pod is a good feature on there as well. But I love the B1 because we have 4 people. You know, it's the closest we can get to a large crew jet aircraft compared to a fighter. You know, it's both worlds. It's a bigger airframe, but still a fighter. So when we go hang out with the fighter people, we get to like fit in with the fighter people, right? Same as if we were to go with the C-17 people or those. We have that relationship with them because we have a bigger crew. But like I've done some pretty cool stuff, you know, and it never gets boring. That's what's cool about the B1. Every mission we train to is always really fun. The B1's like a multi-tool. We're just adapting to all the different war assets that are out there, you know, with standoff weapons now, with near-peer threats. We can still do close air support. We can still fly low if we needed to. All the different bombs we can drop. It's just been... And that's why I love being in the career, because I'm always learning something too. There was never a point where I was like, okay, I know it all. Like, I'm good, you know, like I'm set. It was like, oh, now I can go learn this. And for us in the back as a WISO, we have a DSO, so defensive system operator, and an OSO, an offensive system operator, that do different things. So we have tons of areas to learn on the offensive side, like talking on the radio, using the sniper pod, building targets, or the defensive side, learning, hey, what type of threat is looking at me? What's the signal is going to come up as? How do I defend myself? So you're always testing yourself every sortie. You know, the pilots, for them, it's like driving a car, right? They're just, you know, it's probably pretty much the same every sortie, so they're going through the motions there, but we can change our scenarios quite a bit too. But it's been pretty fun up in there.
So my next question is, how transferable are the skills you learn as a CISO to the civilian world?
Ooh, yeah. You know, I have a lot of CISO friends who have gotten out and worked for Boeing and those companies because they always appreciate their like expertise in what they do. And some of those people, I'll say they were a little more nerdier, you know, they like the radar stuff and all the technical stuff that B1. So there's those jobs. I don't plan on doing any of this when I get out, you know, like I don't want to, you know, not sound rude, but be associated really with the military and retire. I just want to be like Coach Manny or like grow up. And, you know, I have a 1-year-old now, and when I retire in 3 years, it'd be cool if he grew up and didn't know I was in the military, right? Besides like pictures on the wall, you know, maybe I'm just like Coach Manny to him. You know, my 10 and 8-year-old though, remember me as, you know, Major Manny or whatever, or Snare. But I really look forward to that opportunity to do other things, because my passion is, you know, health and fitness and leading people. So going down that road when I retire is something I look forward to. I do a lot of it now. But yeah, it's, yeah, there are definitely opportunities out there to stay within the military. Like we have tons of contractors on our base that are all prior WISOs. Our sim guys are prior WISOs and pilots. Our FTU civilian contractors are all prior B flyers. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities to stay within the community after you retire. It's just, I've been doing it for a long time, man. I don't want to do it anymore. Plus, I just want to relax too and do some fun stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, what's one sortie that you've been on that is like your number one, you remember the most because something significant has happened?
Yeah, the one that sticks out to me, and it's not like a combat one or anything, we're dropping bombs. It was actually headed to Guam, February like 12th of 2018, the year the Patriots played Atlanta in the Super Bowl, because I'm a Patriots fan. I had to fly out that day. So that Saturday, my family and I drove from Abilene to Houston for the ceremonies of the game, because that's where they were playing. We drove all the way to Houston, 6 hours, did the Super Bowl festivities, got some autographs, and drove all the way back, and I flew out that next day to Guam. And the reason that was so memorable is because we have a SATCOM feature on the B1 where we can talk to like people in Hawaii. And there was me and another Pats fan on the jet. I had my jersey on and my hat, and we were trying to like figure out what the score of the game was. And I was asking over the HF radio, like literally the HF radio over the ocean. Some lady in San Francisco, like, "Hey, do you have the score of the Patriots game?" Trying not to say anything stupid on the radio, but everybody's just laughing at me. But I'm like, dude, I need to know the score of the game. I need to know. And they're like giving me updates, and everybody's all laughing. But then we got in contact with, we call them LNOs. I don't know the acronym, but they're basically B1 people that are at an AOC supporting our deployment. And we got him on SATCOM, and he was giving us play-by-play updates on the radio the second half, like Edelman's catch, the overtime touchdown, all this stuff. And we're just in the jet just like screaming. But at the same time, we're like, dude, he could be messing with us, and we're going to land, and the Patriots got blown out, right? Like, we don't know. Like, that's like the level of like fun bromanship they would do to you, because they knew I was a huge Patriots fan. Like, they knew I was mad about flying on that day because I wanted to watch the damn Super Bowl. But it was just a cool experience, like get off the jet. And I kept the Patriots jersey on and the hat when I got off the B1, and my commander's there. And I'm like, "Sorry, sir, but the Patriots played." He's like, "No, you're good." So that was one of them. It was just a cool experience. We did a 4-ship to Guam, so you can't beat that. Flying over Wake Island and 18-hour sortie was pretty fun. My last trip to Misawa was pretty cool because I never thought I would get the opportunity to go to Japan as a B1 person, because we were either in the deed or we were in Guam, and now we've changed up to Bomber Task Force, right? So a lot different concept of deployment. And so now flying, there wasn't a specific flight over there, but just having the experience to experience Japan. Like, that was amazing. Like, I loved Japan being over there. It was really cool to just do that. So the traveling has been something I'll always remember. Obviously going to Doha and flying out of Qatar and dropping bombs in the MERV, like doing all that, hacking the MISH, talking to JTACs, like that's what we're trained to do, to blow up buildings, talk to JTACs and do 9-lines, and I did that. That was really cool. Definitely an experience I'll probably never get, because we'll probably never have a war like that, so that was really fun. Guam was another cool experience, just going out to an island, living the life there. So the traveling and the people is always really fun.
So you probably TDY a lot, or as far as like just stories wise.
Yeah, it's not as much like TDY's purpose. Deployments, when we had our 6 months one every year, were really consistent, but we don't do it anymore. So now we do the Bomber Task Force, which are technically like a TDY in length, but they're considered a deployment. We do those about 2 or 3 times a year, and those are to different locations throughout the world, right? So they went to Norway, they've been to Fairford, we're now going to Misawa. So those are like a TDY for us to travel. We do red flags every 2 years, so we get to go to Vegas and participate down there. Other than that, the B1 doesn't really travel too much because we've adopted the B-52 construct of fight from home. So with Global Strike Command, we do a lot of our missions from home now. So like the serious strikes they did a few years ago from Dias, right? That's like a new thing we're adopting to use the B1 to its max capabilities. So there's other opportunities within the B1 to TDY with other schools and training you can do depending on what platform and what side you're on. So there's all those as well. But for most time, like the B1 overall, we fight from Dias now, and then we go out and do our BTFs.
Didn't you just go to Vegas for Red Flag?
Yep, yeah, so we were supporting an ops up there for Vegas, and we're going back in January for another Red Flag. Those are always a cool experience because we don't get a lot of integration with fighters and strike packages, and so it's just a good bro time, We're down there with all these fighter platforms throughout. You get to meet up with a bunch of your buddies that are in other platforms, but it's tactically one of the best TDYs we'll get because we're pushing the envelope on the tactics we're flying with. The Nellis training range is phenomenal. But it's just, obviously we're in Vegas too, so it's a really cool time.
I got more questions.
I got a quick
I do
question.
too.
Yeah, so, on the note of memorable flights, did you ever have any like incidents or close calls while you're in the jet?
Yeah, so there's always the possibility of malfunctions and emergencies in any platform. The B1's had a couple over the past few years, nothing too crazy with how old it is. Most of us get a lot of like electrical problems, which we're basically able to handle. So, that was a long time ago, but sortie for me was coming back to Dias. There was bad weather. We were about to land and we had an electrical problem where everything in the jet went black and quiet. me and the Wizzo in the back, it's usually a little more uncomfortable for us because we can't see anything. And so when the whole jet goes black and quiet, and you're like, what do we do? The only thing I remember is my pilot up front, he just like whispered over the radio in like a soothing voice. He's like, don't worry, we're still flying. I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. So they still had like control of the aircraft, but the way the B-1 is, like everything shut down, and then it started like coming back on slowly, and we're like, okay, cool. But then we had weather over the field. We had to divert to Oklahoma. So there's that we had to put up with. That's like probably my most significant emergency one. But other than that, we train to that as well in the sim. We go to the sim and do a lot of emergency training just in case that ever happens. We know what checklist we have to run. But that's probably one of the most significant like emergency ones I've had. Very fortunate there, but there haven't really been much. Maybe an engine shuts down every now and then. But knock on wood, it's pretty old, reliable jet.
When I went to field training, we had a prior E guy, and he was a B1 hydraulics. And he said half the time they don't even make it off the ground.
The flying rate for the B1 isn't as good. It's when it's in the air, it's a great jet, but getting it in the air is a tough part.
Got anything to say? So, you said it sounds like you're pretty passionate about leadership, and so I have a question for you. Like, what would you say are the biggest differences between your average or say good leader versus a great leader? What separates them?
Ooh,
that's your philosophy. I was going to say, do you want to talk about your leadership philosophy a little bit?
Yeah, leadership. So about 4 years ago, I really dove into becoming a better person overall. This is when I was in an OSS. I wasn't flying as much. I was bored, and so I had to figure out how to continue to improve. So I worked for a supplement company, and at the time, I went up there and met a bunch of their people, and they showed me real leadership. Leading by example, do hard things, get to know each other, build relationships. And I was like, man, this is pretty cool. And I was like, I need to bring this to the military because I'm not doing some of that stuff. I wasn't the best version of myself as a person, as a father, as a leader. So I really dove into leadership. I worked on myself first, right? So I controlled my life by losing a bunch of weight, eating healthier, quit drinking, diving into reading. And that was 4 years ago. And that opened up my plethora of leadership skills, right? So that led me into my leadership philosophy, which I learned from ACSC. One of the first courses, and the only one I still remember to this day that was applicable, was a leadership course where it's hey, you're about to take command. You need a leadership philosophy to tell your people what you do. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So for me, I came up with 4 core values or philosophies. And it's lead by example in all you do, build relationships based off trust and care, challenge around in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. Oh, sorry, it's then to be selfless, you have to be selfish. So that's how I run my life. Now, to answer your question, how would I determine a great leader from an average leader? Would be leading by example in everything they do. A lot of people you'll meet, especially in a workforce, are probably just really good at their job, but not other areas of their life. Because they think that's all they have to be is good at their job to be successful. And I would beg to differ, that's 2% of the problem, right? To be the best version of yourself, you have to be good at everything you do, which is very hard. But that'll distinguish a great leader. What I mean by that is, are they good at their job? Yes. Are they good as a person? Yes. Do you notice that they're good with their family? Yes. Do they take care of themselves very well? Yes. Is their email etiquette great? Yes. All these little things, you're just man, this guy's he's got that, he's got that. He's always moving, he's doing this. He knows this person, he knows that person. He's easy to talk to. They got to have it all, which is very hard to do. Because you can get by being an average leader, right? You can get by just maybe being good at one of them or be good at a couple. But the great leaders I follow and I want to be are good at everything, to where if somebody in my shop had a question about something or they knew I was going to do something, they wouldn't have a doubt. They'd be like, dude, snare's on it? Okay, cool. I've seen him do this. I've seen him do that. He's always out here doing this. And I don't do a lot of it to get recognition or anything like that, but that's also another thing. I do it for myself just to show people that it's possible too. And Travis sees it on my page, I'm very passionate these past few years to share my journey and share what I do because one, some people just need to see it to do it. And it's the consistency that keeps me going. So that'd be my next like great leadership trait is how consistent are they, right? Is this leader someone that's like maybe good at PT when their PT test comes up and they're exercising more and they're doing this, or I don't know, in the flying community, we have like a lot of tests coming up, a yearly like check ride and stuff, or different evals. Maybe they're only doing it during that time. Like you have to do it all the time, 24/7, which is, it's hard. But I think that's probably my limiting factor is they lead by example in everything they do. And then I think relationships is another big one too. When you can talk to somebody and just be like, hey, Manny may not be able to solve this problem, but I know he knows an LRO. Or he knows like an airman that works in hydraulics and may be able to figure it out. Let me go see if he knows that person. Because that's another leadership trait that's very undervalued is networking and relationships too. Just because we're so focused on a lot of just doing your job and working around your person and everybody else take care of themselves. But when you can have those relationships, it helps too. But definitely a discussion that's always open for more later on. But I hope that helped your answer. It is a great question though.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Kind of part two or nobody else has
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. All right, so it sounds like you got a lot of knowledge on leadership. Something I personally struggle with is followership. What advice would you have for me when it comes to the followership aspect? Because I feel like you kind of got to be a good follower to be a good leader.
Yep. No, it's a great leadership trait. You know, servant leadership is another one we talk about a lot. To be a good follower, I think you just have to know who you're following, one, to make sure it's the right person, too. But I don't know, you just have to be able to take what people tell you to do and go do it. You know, like you may know how to do it better, but sometimes followers are just going to be able to be like, cool, I'll go do it. You know, like, yes, sir, I got it, you know, and it may not be what they want to do, but man, it's very interesting when you think of followership. I've seen it a lot in my career where I was told to do a lot of things not knowing why I had to do them, just to go do it. And so it's helped me as a follower. If you have the time, you can always ask why, but there's always that fine area where you don't need to ask why. I know your generation is really big on why, which is fine. You got to know what you're doing and why, which is perfectly valuable. But some followership is just going to do it based off of trust and knowing that your leadership is usually telling you to do that because they know you need it. So there's probably plenty of times in your debt where your leadership is probably giving out tasks and you're like, man, why me? But I'll go do it. But you have to trust they chose you for a reason. It's either a reason to make you better, because they knew you could do it, or to challenge you. And so followership is knowing when you're told to do something, there's probably one of those reasons why. Now, you either go do it and then go report back on you did it and why as well. So I think we're always followers though. So that's the thing, like followership's always going to be there, no matter where you are in your career. Everybody's following somebody, you know, like your debt commander and debt leadership have people they follow as well, right? That are above them and that they have to do things for. And so you guys just may not see it. You may think like they're the highest of their command, you know, but they're doing the same thing that you're doing in your position. So to be a good follower, you have to have trust, because you should just go out and do the thing you're told to do with that trust. So that's probably one thing the followers have to do is it's still a two-way street of trust. A lot of rambling, but hope it helps.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll keep going. I got a list. As a cadet or as cadets, preparing to, be second lieutenants hopefully within the next 2 years, what, just in general, do you think we need to be focusing on developing now? And also, what leadership habits should we be developing like early on in our career rather than, waiting until later?
I think what I would like to see, and I think what would help young lieutenants, a few areas, right? Like, I'm huge into PT, so if you can lead in that area, do it, because it's the one area we all have common ground on to lead. You will see as an officer that you will not be able to do the job as your airman to lead. I don't know if, sir, you as an LRO were able to do the logistics jobs your airman did. As a flyer, I can't do that leading aircrew flight equipment airman. So it's hard to lead in that area of the job, right? So I had to find other areas to show leadership. PT is a great example. It's a huge shift right now, right? Everybody's seeing it. We have the new PT standards coming up. We are not going back to this old, hey, let's just do the minimum standards of the Air Force thing anymore. We're trying to change that mentality to a lethal mentality. And PT is an area where you can lead at all levels. Everybody's going to understand leading in fitness. So you can do that. As a young officer, you can do that right away. Going to the gym in the morning or asking your flight if they want to do PT, there's that. Other areas would be, I think followership is a great thing as a young officer because you're not going to want to do that right away. You're probably going to want to lead your shop. You're going to want to like make changes, right? Like we see all these times with these higher ups in the military making all these changes every 2 to 3 years. You may think that's what a leader has to do, but not really, you know? Like when I was a flight commander AFE, I learned to follow right away and lead from the rear, which was go into my shop, which you guys will go into, watch how the shop is ran for maybe like 3 months, understand who is leading in the shop, work with my flight chief or superintendent or however your structure is, and just watch, you know, like see what works, see how the shop is going, see who the oddballs are, see who maybe is always in trouble that you need to keep an eye on. But don't make a lot of change right away. Probably list them out, you know, and then have an idea. And then work with your flight leadership like, hey guys, I've sat down, I've watched the shop a little bit. Here's just some things I think we can do better. Spit it out to them, you know, if they're like, nah, that's been tried before, don't do it. Okay, cool, we won't do this. Or like, oh, I like that, let's try this. So that's probably one thing I think a lot of young lieutenants lose is that followership right when they get in. Because they want to lead, which is perfectly fine. But you have to be able to lead right, though, too. So there's probably 2 areas right there. I'll leave it at those 2. Come in and lead from the rear and follow, and then find an area that you can lead at all levels that everybody understands.
Sir. I'll keep just asking questions, unless y'all think of something. If you think something, just let me know. Something that we missed, you know, when we did our podcast thing a few weeks ago, was the rucks, right? So I've been doing the rucks here with.
Oh yeah, because you said you started something, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing it based off of, you know, what you did, is try to go every weekend, do these rucks in the morning, and then kind of just like talk about leadership. And I've got 2 of them in the room with me. I kind of just wanted to have you say like why you do it, why you started it. And I don't know, you've been doing it for like 80 weeks now or something. You've been doing it for a long time. Kind of just go off of that.
Yeah, so this came from when I was, you know, working on myself, right? I really fell back in love with rucking because it's just an easy exercise, good on the body, easy to breathe and move. And that led me into a team here at DIAS that we have, a rapid airman development team where we put together leadership opportunities for airmen to go do cool things and hard stuff. One of those things was rucking because not a lot of people do it. And so we just started like a rucking group. And every Saturday we meet at 6 a.m. somewhere around town and we ruck 5 to 7 miles till about 8. And we just talk, you know, just hang out, get to know each other, ask questions, talk about life, all the things you just don't get to do in a shop where I don't get to see all these different airmen or different jobs. And same for them, they just don't get to interact with other people as well. But the reason I think it's so beneficial and why it helps is it goes into one of my, you know, leadership philosophies, build relationships based off trust and care. So I'm building relationships. I love relationships. So it allows me to get to know people on base if I ever have a problem to solve or need somebody to talk to. But it also removes the uniform from the relationships that I have with airmen. So like they know me as Manny, I know them as Stephanie, you know, and Sam and all their first names. And it shows us that we're all human right outside of the uniform, which sometimes can be missed when we're in the job, hacking the mish, you know, doing our stuff. And so I think it allows the airmen that time to meet other people too, because they definitely don't have the opportunity to see what a flyer does or see what an FSS airman does, or let's see, I have a FAB airman, you know, that comes with us. And so it allows them to build those relationships. And I do it for me as well because it helps me with my exercise. It helps me with my like relaxation and time. But the more I do it for myself, the more I do it for other people too, and the more growth I see from them. I've seen a lot of airmen excel in this area that join me, and it's a cool event rucking because you get to do hard things, but it's not really hard. It just looks hard. Plus, not a lot of people do in the Air Force, so when you're rucking around base for 18.4 miles doing a Norwegian foot march, people notice, and you get to meet all those people every year when you do it. So.
All right. So you said you like to read. You got into reading. If you were to give me like your big 3 of books, what would it be?
It's a good one. 3's hard, because I have like 10. But the 3 on repeat that I like is Legacy by Steve Kerr. Great book. It's about the All Blacks rugby team. So it's not a military book. It's more business focused, but a lot of leaders recommend it. It's short read, which is why I like it. I can read it in a couple weeks, and I always take something from it. So Legacy is one. I really did like Turn the Ship Around. I can't remember the guy's name, some Navy guy, but it's a good leadership book. It's a really cool leadership concept too when you read it. It's about the mission command concept. That pretty sure, I don't know how much you guys dive into mission command over there now, but it's a type of leadership the Air Force trying to adopt with like putting leadership down to the lowest level. But Turn the Ship Around is a great one. Tim Grover has a couple good books, Relentless and Winning. Good books there. More about the grit and mindset of life. Atomic Habits is one I have on repeat on my Kindle. It's just a one I can take tips and tricks from. Can't Hurt Me is always a good one if you want to just prove that you're not doing much in life and you're living life like a baby. Go read Can't Hurt Me. It's just a good book to show. Like when I read it, doing 75 hard, it always reminds me I can do more. Like that's why I love that book. Like what David Goggins does and did back then is like, dude, how does somebody have a mind like this? But then when you think about it, like he's just a person. Like he's not a robot or anything. If he could do it, why can't I? And so I do that on a lot of my hard things. It's just like, man, dude, David Goggins probably do it and make fun of me, but I should be able to try. So it just shows you can do more. There's another book called Grit by Angela Duckworth. Good book as well. Let's see. I'm trying to think of another one I just read recently. Man, I'll have to share my library with you, Travis.
Yes, sir.
There are just tons in there on different, like I have mindset books, I got habit books, I got military history books, like Napoleon and Winston Churchill. David Hackworth, his book is good. I have some biographies I've read. Yeah, that's what I love about reading is there's just so much different areas to learn, and that's why one of my asterisk leadership traits is always be learning, I think everybody should be reading something, personal development. And most people are going to be like, oh, I'm in college, I can't, or I'm in tech school, I can't. Yeah, you can. You probably have 15 minutes to read 5 or 10 pages, trust me. And it's just easy to learn. Like it's just way too easy now with podcasts and audiobooks. And I'm a hardback guy. I love my hardback books. My wife hates it because I buy books all the time on Amazon when I get them for free. But I love sharing books too. So yeah, those are a few books off the top of my head that I would recommend.
Thank you, sir.
You have a question?
Yeah, I got a question. I came in late. I feel like I have to be on camera. Yeah, sir. I'm Ken Potapenko. I have a question just in general from your experience, but throughout your career at any point, maybe through training or any time recently, how do you find time to maintain being able to spend time with your family? Just because I know things may be a little stressful early on. I feel like that's a problem I'm starting to have already. Just coming into a leadership position, I've got a lot of other things that need to get done. And I'll call my mom once a week and that just feels wrong at this point. So at what point, how do you manage to, make that time or even have that time, especially at your job?
Yeah, I've come to terms with, I don't look at a day for balance, right? I look at a week is a balance. I take a week and I prioritize where I can get the time for what matters the most to me in that week. So let's say I look at a week and I go, hey, I know this day, this afternoon I give to my kids. Or this day, this afternoon I give to my exercise. This day is going to be a work day. This day is going to be a coaching day. So a lot of people try to do everything in a day, which is very overstimulating and unsuccessful. You should be doing a couple small things every day, but over a week and a month is when you should balance all that. So for instance, I know this week obviously I'm getting ready to leave, so I knew I had to take some time for my family, but a lot of our family time, we do things together now, right? Like we work out a lot together. Like, so that has brought in fitness, it's brought in my kids, it's brought in coaching, all in one area, right? So I can now clump all that together. So now I have that time all right there, right? So in the afternoon, we'll do homework, we'll go to the gym, we'll go for a walk, or we'll go on a bike ride. Like there's family time. My kids come work out with me in the morning. My son was out there this morning writing workouts for the military guys that are out there with me, so they come to the gym with me in the morning. I wake up my kids every morning. I cook breakfast for them. I take them to school, so I'm really big on taking my kids to school. Like that's a time I always allocate in my schedule. Same as if I come home and do homework with them. So there's those times I'll appropriate during the week. The weekends is usually all my kids because my wife works on the weekends, so I definitely take advantage of that time. Now there are times where I know the military is going to want that back, so I have to look and be like, hey, I'm going to deploy, or I'm going to go TDY, or I'm going to go fly more. Hey family, like I let them know what's going on these next few months. I'm going to be busier these months, so let's take a trip this week to like get all that time, right? Like build all that time ahead of time, so when I leave, I've cured that time. Or when I come back, I can go, hey, now let's reorganize some time to my family. So it's like, it's a macro scale for time and balance. I don't look at it in a micro scale. It's all macro, like a year or a month or a week. And that helps me not be as stressed about balance. I don't stress out about time. I use a lot of my time very efficiently. I wake up super early, I read, I go to the gym, I make breakfast, take my kids to school, I go to work, I eat, I work, come home, homework, work out. You know, I'm either coaching my kids at night or putting them to bed, and then I repeat. But having all that assigned throughout the week helps understand like where I need to balance certain things. So I think that's one thing a lot of people focus on is doing a lot in one day. When there's things I can push off that I can still do in a week, but I'm not going to get like, the world's not going to catch on fire for it.
Right. Thank you.
So when you were a second or first lieutenant, was there certain things that you did or didn't do that you wish you could go back and change, or maybe some things you did really well?
Man. You know, I obviously wasn't the best leader then, but I was so, I don't want to say naive, but I was in an ops squadron to be the best flyer I had to be, so I felt like I had to fit in really good with the ops squadron, and maybe that meant flying more, less time for my family. You know, I drank way more than I needed to now that I look back at those times, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't do anything stupid when I did it, but I look back now that I don't drink, I'm like, man, I could be so much more better than I am now. So if I had that clarity back then, that would have helped, but there's definitely a lot of things I could have done better. There's things I could have done better yesterday, but I can't let that like stop me or anything. I can just either learn from it and adapt from it, and like, it doesn't change anything. It happened, but I think, I don't know, man. I really did have fun early in my career, and I think that's the one thing to enjoy when you're that young lieutenant with not a lot of priorities, right? You're just focused on your job. Like, just have fun, you know. Work a lot if you have the time, because you got to put in the hours there. That way, when you do get a family and you do get more leadership, you've put in that time, you know, and you can start buying it back. That's what I've started doing now, is buying back my time. Just looking at what days can I take extra time away to do this. And that was because I put in so much time earlier.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So I guess I would piggyback off of what you were just talking about and what he asked. So like your work-life balance, can I like go into that like from early career to later career, and then are you able to like kind of pick your own schedule kind of thing, because you just have to get like your 8 hours a day kind of thing?
Yeah, so early in my career, my schedule was be the best B1 aviator I could be. So limited family time. You know, we had a young baby at the time, so, you know, it was really just be the squadron 24/7. I was in the vault studying. I was going on every TDY and deployment I could get. I was flying a lot to become just good in the jet. So there was that time, you know, with most careers probably have, you know, just like any young officer, they're trying to be a good officer. So they're putting in the hours, putting in the work. Right around when I went to the OSS, mid-captain to majors, when I was sort of like, all right, I can't just fly all the time now because I have, you know, admin stuff I got to do or officer stuff. How do I start being a little bit better at it? But now as an ADO, I can pick my flights per se because I'm an instructor. I have limited time, but I can't say no, which is but this is going to lead to a great one. Being honest with your leadership to tell them your priorities is going to help your career. So like when I came back to the squadron as a major in the ops squadron, I was like, hey man, here's like my priorities, my family. I want to be a good leader in the office. I want to do this and this. That let them know like, oh, maybe man, he doesn't need to fly all the time. Maybe he just needs to do his requirements to fly so he can be a better leader in the squadron. So having those open conversations, being transparent with what your priorities are is going to help with how your flow goes. But now I only fly maybe once a week, which is still 4 times a month, with a couple sims. It's not too bad, but I have a better work-life balance where like today, right? I was just like, I text my boss like, hey, I'm teleworking today. I got a couple calls I got to make online. I got some chores I got to do before we leave. I have my computer here. Like nothing is stopped. Like, okay, cool. But I was transparent, right? I didn't just like not show up to work and just stay at home. So that helps with a balance too, is transparency with your leadership and those around you, so they know what you want to do and when you want to do it. Like I put on my schedule every day when I go to the gym. I come in Monday, I look at my week, what flights I'm scheduled, what meetings after 10, and I pick around those and I schedule when I'm going to go to the gym. It could be 2 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whenever I have time. But they see it, right? Because they know it's a priority for me. Same as when I do podcasts or when I fly or when I go to meetings, it's all on my schedule. So that somebody looking at it can go, I can't schedule snare here, he's got this, or maybe let's go talk to him and see if he can fly here, but he can move some stuff around.
Copy.
So do you just like put that on your Google Calendar? Is that kind of how you do it?
So we have another scheduling site. It's called PEX. I don't know if anybody uses it, but it's just like another scheduling site on top of everything else that we use to schedule our flights. So I talked about the scheduling shop. They manage everybody's flying schedule in our squadron. So they assign who's going to, because we have to fly a certain amount of lines a week for the boss, right? So they pick and choose who flies where and who flies when. On that schedule, they see when I'm doing other things, but I also translate it to my Outlook calendar. And then I don't do as much on my Google Calendar, but it's more my Outlook for my emails so my boss can see, and then the PEX so the squadron can see. But yeah, a lot of calendars everywhere.
All right, I know this is being recorded, but non-attribution, we don't post it anywhere. If you could go back, knowing what you know about the Air Force, how it operates, all the different options you have, career fields, would you still have picked CISO, or would you have gone a different path?
I don't know. If I would have known everything I know today, it would have been cool to go a non-rated job, knowing that leadership was like a factor for me, because I just would have been able to lead so much more. But the reason I love aviation and the aviation side is the one thing I see lack on the non-rated side is what we learn in the flying community is what we call debriefing. So we are very big on debriefing everything, every sortie, every mission, where it's like no rank in the debrief. If you messed up, you messed up. There's a lot of ownership and a lot of that goes on in the flying community that I didn't see much on the rated side or non-rated side that I try to bring back now to airmen. It's like, are you having debriefs or feedbacks with your airmen every time they get, or in your shop to make sure things are going right? Both sides have a lot of pros. The aviator side, we learn how to make decisions in a stressful situation and debrief. Like that's like the stuff we take from there. The non-rated side, from what I've seen, is they just have a lot of leadership plethora. So that, like, I would have learned all this leadership a lot earlier in my career because I would have learned from failing, right? Learned from all these flights I would have managed, learned all these different leadership traits, because you don't learn them unless you go out and have to be a leader. Like when I was a flight commander, I didn't know the different leadership traits that were out there. I just knew like the ones I knew. Tell people what to do, work by PT, and like be a good friend. But I didn't know there were like other leadership tools that were out there to learn from. And so I had to like learn from mistakes and learn from other people. Yeah, I don't know. It would have been fun to just lead more early in my career.
Yeah. Yeah, I try, and I try to preface all of this to They all want to be pilots, and that's great. I wanted to be a pilot too. I just don't want them to
Yeah.
think the world. I thought the world ended whenever they told me I was going to be an LRO and I wasn't flying. And I like there's so many great opportunities out there, and I'm just trying to prepare everyone
Yeah.
for the end.
Yeah, I would definitely not think your life's over just because you don't get a rated slot, you know, like, yeah, hopefully you learn through ROTC, right? Like if you don't get a rated slot, what's next? Okay, now I need to really develop my leadership traits. Because as an aviator, you don't really need leadership traits right away in your career because you're so focused on a jet and doing a mission. If I knew I was going non-rated, I would have definitely started learning more about being a better leader way early in my career because that's what you're going to go do right away. You're going to lead. So you have to know, hey, if this leadership trait doesn't work here, I need to be able to adjust it, fine tune it, and do a new leadership trait. Or if Johnny doesn't like it when I yell at them and I have to be like super soft and cuddly with them to get them to do something, I have to do that. But Timmy over here likes it when I yell at him because he grew up in a hard family in the country, to where that's like leadership. Like you have to learn all these different ways people do things, and it's very, very hard. Like I had to know, like, I don't know, not to talk about this around this person, or that's just what's cool about leadership is it's just always something to learn in it.
It's truly an art form.
Yeah, it is definitely an art form. Yeah, and it's tough because it's and that's what's cool about it.
Do you have any other examples of like building that trust without, like we talked about it a few weeks ago, it's not always about yelling at someone.
Yeah.
You still need to build trust. I think it was the one that you said it. You need to build trust in order for standards and expectations to be met.
Yeah, I think building trust is all about just being human, like really getting to know the people in your shop. Getting to know their families, getting to know if they have a pet, getting to know what their hobbies are. Because that's where people are going to work harder for you when they know you care and when they know you understand them and where you're from. But that also means you have to be open as well. Like a lot of leaders I've seen, they always want to get to know people, but they never want the people to get to know them. And so sharing your struggles, sharing your journey, sharing your family, sharing your hobbies, like some people may think flyers only love flying. That's all they want to talk about. But I'm like, no, dude, like I don't love flying. Like I love fitness. I love movies. I love reading. Then they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought you guys just like bled being in the jet. It's like, no, that's just what we do. It's like, I don't tell a maintenance person like, oh, is that all you love to do is fix airplanes? They're probably like, no, I hate it because that's what I got assigned to do. But when you get to know them, they definitely appreciate it both ways. So sharing your struggles, right? Like I share my struggles quite a bit with some of the misfortune, like not misfortunes, but dumb things I've done in the past or hardships I've had, because they don't know that we struggle, which is crazy to say. Like, honestly, you'll get to a shop and people are going to think to become an officer, you've had like the easiest life and the best life ever, right? Like that's why you're there. But they don't know it's hard, or you had long nights and long days and you failed tests and you got in trouble. And they don't think that. I literally had airmen not know the officers took the PT test. Like they just didn't. Sometimes they just don't know what we do. Like they're like, you guys have to take the PT test? I'm like, dude, I'm in the Air Force with you, man. Like it's crazy. Like because they are working so hard and they may never see an officer. So just being a person with them is like will make them work for you better.
What else we got? Think so?
Snare, appreciate you taking the time to talk to these guys.
Yes, sir. Thank
really
you.
Beneficial.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm an open book. Travis knows that. Keep me updated on your guys' career, and and then if I ever have any questions on what to expect from young officers, I'll know who to come to. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Manny.
All right, guys, take it easy.
Yes, sir.
Have a good one.
Well, that was cool.